Hello, this is Sebastian from Clockwork Sword, and we at Clockwork Sword wanted to give y'all some more sneak peeks behind the scene of the development of Clockwork Sword with these devlogs. Hope you enjoy them. Can you tell me who you are and what you do on Clockwork Sword?
My name is Emily. I'm the lead artist for Clockwork Sword.
So, as a lead artist, what does that entail from concepting of what you make and what you assign?
Well, it mostly has to do with deciding what needs to exist in the game to communicate the style, the location, the people, everything, and then taking those assets that we've decided to make and then giving them to the artists who are best at what they do. So between props and environment and like weapons and characters, everyone has a preference.
Gotcha,
So.
gotcha. With props and environments, you had to obviously collaborate with the design team a lot. So how did you manage and how did you work through that with them?
Well, I talked to Parker a lot, being the lead designer. He and I worked really closely on certain things, especially the like design of the props. So uh the whole game is supposed to be sort of steampunk, and we worked together to figure out like how that steampunk element is supposed to be worked into the design of the props. Say like the workbench and how the gear that turns the shelf. That's all part of talking to designers and then getting that into somebody's hands so they can start modeling it.
Gotcha, gotcha. And how do you determine what can be put into an environment and what can't be put into an environment? Like, if somebody says like, "Hey, can you make this really designed or detailed thing?" But you're like, "I can't put that in because it's too much detail. It's not enough detail on this." How do you decide with that?
Yeah, so level of detail is uh it's really something that it's like a skill that you have to develop over time, is like understanding how much detail fits in a game. Clearly we're not going for something like uh PS1 or like very early Animal Crossing, but we're also not trying to go for something like The Last of Us.
Sure.
It's like we've got a middle ground of maybe more on the lighter side of detail. And really that all just comes down to personal discretion and understanding what looks good.
Who are you and what do you do on Clockwork Sword?
My name is Peter Stacey. I am one of the art leads. I specifically have been handling the team doing the enemy models.
And as the lead for that team, what does that entail in like what you make or what you assign to the other people in your team?
I've been over kind of working with the designers on what they wanted the artwork to look like and finding a way to make it feasible for the time that we have and for the way that the artists in the team work, making sure we find a way to maximize the product that we got out of the team.
And as you said, you were collaborating with the designers. How did you manage collaborating with them, with the not just designers, but also the engineers? The middleman between them. How did you manage all that?
It's been several meetings of this is how we want this attack to look, and this is how we want this character to animate, and then taking that and kind of making a design that says, oh, this communicates this kind of aspect, and this enables us to animate within the simplicity and time that we have available.
And how do you decide like what designs look good or what designs like not necessarily look bad, but how do you weed out what can realistically be put in and how realistically it can be shown in the enemies?
I mean, that's kind of been the biggest challenge. Is there's a lot of things we want to do, but we have a very limited schedule, and so it's been a lot of like, well, let's go look at, like, for instance, we have a coal cart enemy, and we pulled up a lot of reference images of older style train cars, and we started pulling parts from those, and so how can we simplify this so that we can match the art style in general and be able to make it look a little bit more steampunk, but then also balance it with, like, how do we make this look more menacing than just a box with a bunch of coal in it.
Yeah.
It's been a fun back and forth, but it definitely, learning to find that balance has been a big obstacle to tackle.
And speaking of that balance, obviously you have to assign and also give out assignments to your artists under you. How have you seen them progress throughout these semesters, like with their art, with the understanding of like the art style, how to model, how to make things look exactly as like designers want them to look?
Man, my team has just knocked it out of the park. The way that they've, you know, I think it's been a balance between the way they work and the way they like things to be explained to them, so that both fixing or I guess learning to communicate as effectively as possible. It gets to the point now where it's like I think the frustrating thing is now we have such a smooth rhythm that you wish you could go back and redo the whole project with the abilities and skills you've kind of refined over the course of the project.
Yeah. Who are you, and what do you do on Clockwork Sword?
Yeah, so I'm Parker. I am kind of the lead design on Clockwork Sword. Also kind of slash, I guess vision holders, what they call it in Capstone. But like the kind of initial pitch was my idea. But I try and let other people take it from just that.
Yeah, as the lead designer, what does that entail? Like, what do you like do, and what do you assign to like other people under you?
Yeah, so I think to me, lead design is about directing the kind of overall vision, but then leaving the micro details to kind of other people. So, for instance, we might decide on this kind of cool new enemy, and kind of my job would be deciding the context and like why it's there and why we need it in the game as a whole. But the specifics of like what its damage is, what its health is kind of up to my other designers. Usually what I assign it's kind of varied, especially as we kind of go through, because Capstone's such a speedy cycle. It's kind of shifted a lot. So like earlier in the semester, a lot of it was like ideation related stuff. And then near the middle, a lot of it is like implementation stuff. And now kind of near the end, a lot of it is playtesting and kind of getting the last bit of polish on the game.
And how do you manage collaborating with that with like other teams, like design, like not design because you're part of that, but more like art or like engineering? How do you manage that?
Yeah, so I think what I try to do is usually when X design task like entails work from other people, I try to talk to kind of the leads of those teams and get their opinion on what their team is capable of, or what they personally can kind of pull off. So I would try to avoid, like, if there's a new feature, like a score system per se, I would definitely consult with our lead engineer and talk with him on kind of what the scope of implementing something like that would be. And if we have the time for that, / the resources, if the entire engineering team is swamped, then obviously we don't want to put more work on their plate. And kind of same goes for art. So if we have a new enemy, then that entails a bunch of art. And so talking to our lead artists about if that's feasible for them. So essentially, I try and take the ideas from my engineers, pass them on to their leads, and then they can talk to their teams and see what's feasible and what's not.
You have people under you as a design lead. So how have you seen your team evolve throughout these semesters, from the beginning to the end, and how have you seen them progress throughout all of this?
Oh yeah, I think it's kind of been funny because it goes along with kind of the design cycle where a lot of what I saw at the beginning from my team was like kind of their ability to come up with like new ideas, or we've got this problem, how do we solve it, like, and kind of come up with a new system that could solve that problem. So like one of the big ones we had going in was like, how do we encourage people to switch weapons? And someone was like, well, what if we had this gauge that you could use, and instead of like punishing the player for not switching weapons properly, we could encourage them to switch weapons, so like more of a positive reinforcement. And so it's kind of been interesting to kind of see them go from like ideas people to like then now implementing some stuff in engine, and getting assets working, and kind of a lot more engine work, and kind of it's eventually set the shift from the kind of nebulous to the concrete in terms of design.
Okay.
And that's been really cool to see.
Thank you for watching. Those have been our devlogs. You can catch Clockwork Sword this March on Steam and the Epic Games Store. See you then.